What's up everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be one of my favorites. It's going to be a beginner handstand tutorial. So this one's gonna be geared towards people who've literally never been upside down before, but you're interested in getting your handstand in the new year, or if you're someone who's wanting to teach handstands or just see how I teach handstands. So hopefully you guys learn a lot through this video and enjoy it, and like, subscribe, and comment. So first thing we're gonna go over is preparation to get into your handstands. I know a lot of people ask, how do my wrists never get sore? This is purely because I do a lot of work in order to make sure they're warmed up before my handstands, as well as cooled down after I work them. So first things first, we're gonna do simple stretches. I'm sure you guys have seen these through every single creator who does handstands, but we basically wanna move them in a way that's gonna be articulating through the entire wrist. So we're gonna start with our base of our hand facing towards us, the palm towards us. You wanna hold each stretch for around 30 to 45 seconds, depending. I do longer holds when I'm doing my warm up versus my cool down. So once you've been here, main thing you wanna focus on is allowing that this part of your wrist is fully opened up. Because if you're doing handstands, it's always the opposite, it's always closed. So we wanna open up that joint and make sure it's nice and primed for our handstands. From here, what I usually do is I bring them inwards this way and then shift back and forth. Basically, this is again, just articulating through the entire joint, allowing for all the little space within our bones and our ligaments to just kind of get warmed up and loosen around that area. In terms of holding or rocking here, anywhere between 12 to 15 reps, and only working in a range of motion that is pain-free. If you ever start to feel any pinching or nerve type payment, payment, what am I trying to say? Whatever word it is, pain, just don't do it. Once we've done this one, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be a little bit of weight into our hand and we're gonna pop up onto our wrist, that we're in a nice stack position. This one's making it a little bit more dynamic and forcing us to actually warm up and get blood flow into those wrists, because we're forcing more of an exercise movement. So we're going from a relaxed hand to a clenched hand. Wrists always stay stacked, so you never want to be going over top of yourself or back, as well as the actual alignment from wrist, elbow to shoulder should be all on top of each other. So we never want to be bending or creating a really awkward, ugly angle in our form. So popping up, down for around 8 to 10 reps, and then we're going to turn it and go the exact same way from where we started. If you look at my wrists from the front, they're not pushing outwards, because that's going to put a lot of strain on the lateral part of our wrist, and there's a ligament there that is commonly strained. So you want to make sure that you're nice and strong, and at the same time you also don't want to push yourself inwards, because again, that medial part of our wrist, you're going to get a little bit of impingement through here as well. So coming up nice and strong, stacking the wrists. If you find that this movement is too easy, you can always progress it to having more weight. So what you would do is you would actually lift and press more weight into your upper body versus being fully sat back and doing it. Once we've done those ones, I like to do what they're called milkshakes and roller coasters. So I roll my wrist this way and then roll them the other way. You'll find one motion is more easy to do than the other. This way is easier for me versus this way is feels weird, but it's still good. And then roller coasters going one way and then the other way. And again, this is just kind of loosening up this whole part of our wrist. The most recent one actually that I've been starting to do is figure eights. I learned this in Animal Flow. And I actually really like this one to do in between my sets of handstands, but I've also added it into my warm-up program. So again, working through, making sure that my wrists, basically as I'm turning my hands, they're always in contact with each other, so I'm never letting them release, because that just doesn't allow for the same type of movement. And as we're warming up our wrists, we're also warming up our elbows as well as we do this one, which is why I like it. It's like a 2-in-1. It's like a sale. Next one we're gonna do is, this one's gonna look really weird, but this is one that I like to do in between sets as well, but also to warm up because it gets the blood flow into my wrists. Basically hooking your hands underneath your knees and squeezing your forearm with your hands. And you'll notice that if you open and close your hands, it almost feels as if your hands are swollen kind of, but that's basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to get all the blood flow into that area so that way it's nice and warm and it doesn't feel stiff, or sometimes if you go into a handstand and get really sharp and pinchy, that's just because they're cold. So this also helps make them feel warmer. So in terms of wrist warm up, that's a really thorough version of what I do. And it usually takes me around I would say 5 to 8 minutes. Anything more, you can definitely do, but I feel that's a good range for me that allows me to have a good amount of practice without having to go back and rewarm up my wrist all the way through. Next important thing we're gonna go over is our mobility. I feel every single person always says you just need strong shoulders to do a handstand, which is true, but the biggest inhibitors are gonna be your hamstring mobility as well as your lat mobility. So hamstring mobility, mainly because a lot of the drills that we will do throughout this handstand series I'm gonna show you guys, hamstrings will inhibit you to be able to use the wall properly, as well as it it'll make it harder for you guys to kick up and follow through with your handstand. And then lats, that's just basically because your lats, the primary movement they're gonna be doing is like allowing yourself to get an overhead position. If you have tight lats, you're gonna notice your arm positions here or here. And if you were to look at a handstand, this isn't it. This is like not a handstand position at all. We wanna make sure that we have the ability to be in an outstretched position, so end of a range of motion, and we have strength here, so we're able to push up through our lats and hold this position, which is why it's mobility in our lats versus just flexibility, because the main difference between it is flexibility is your ability to get to the end range of motion, but mobility is for us to be able to get to that end range and then be strong in that position. So that's where the strength component comes in when people are like, oh, strong shoulders. It's strong shoulders, but it's like in this specific position to get this range of motion. You can be strong here, but it's gonna cause you to have a break in your handstand and overall mess up your entire alignment, which in the future will affect your planches, your presses, your push-ups, all that stuff. So we wanna make sure it's perfect right from the beginning. First hamstring exercise we're gonna go through is one of my favorites. I call them elephants, but they can also just be called hamstring sweeps. So we're gonna start off, base leg is gonna be slightly bent like a soft knee. Leg is gonna go in front of you. As our arms swoop down like an elephant trunk, which is why I think it's called elephants, you're gonna basically swoop down and you're gonna hinge in your hips, push them really far back to get a hamstring stretch in your front leg. In order to feel it in your front leg, this front foot should be flexed and basically have a straight line from your heel all the way to your bum. And as you swoop down, and then come back up. You can either do these alternating, each time making sure you get nice and deep and really sinking your bum far down, or you can just do them all one side, whatever you prefer. You can also do these traveling as well, so then you're like a little traveling elephant, like this, which makes it a little more fun. Honestly, stretching is pretty boring, so in my mind, I try to make exercises as fun as they can be, so that way I don't get boring and tend to like skip them, because that tends to be something that a lot of people do. They're like, oh, I don't need to do it because it's boring, but it's super important if you wanna excel in your handstand journey. The next one we're gonna do, still hitting your hamstrings, but it's in a straddle position, and I like this one in particular because it translates well to press to handstands, or even just like a straddle sit in the future. So feet probably as wide as like a yoga mat or slightly further. You're gonna take your hips, send them back, nice straight back. You wanna curve in your low back because it's gonna take away all the hamstring mobility. You wanna push your hips back as if you're doing a deadlift and try to reach the floor, hands down, or if you can't reach the floor with your hands, that's a key sign that you don't have flexible hamstrings, but that's okay. You would then just reach for your shins or even like your knees and just again, focus on pushing your glutes backwards. And that's what's gonna give you a stretch. The added toe lift is also gonna give you a bigger stretch on your hamstrings as well. Now, if you're very flexible and you wanna advance it, we can go to our elbows, or we can just try to reach to the other end of the mat and then come back up. Next one we're gonna do, we're gonna be down on our knees. This is gonna be like a modified version of the first hamstring, like elephant sweep one, but you're just gonna be on the ground. So my left leg is gonna be bent, heel to bum. Right leg is gonna be straight, and I'm just gonna reach outwards. So if you've noticed throughout all of the hamstring exercises, if you flex your front toe, it's gonna allow you to get a full stretch in the posterior part of your body, so your hamstring, and you're gonna reach as far as you can. If this is too easy, we would then raise our bum up, and then again, tilt that pelvis, push ourselves back, and get a deeper stretch in that hamstring. Each of these stretches can be held for like 30 to 45 seconds during your warm up, but during your cool down, I would suggest holding it for like 2 to 3 minutes. I know, so boring, but like put on your favorite song, put on a YouTube video, TikTok, put on my YouTube video, and try to get through the stretch and make it a little bit more entertaining for yourself, because the 3-minute hold is what's gonna give you more flexibility versus just the quick warm ups, which is just gonna prime your body for your handstand practice. Next, oh wait, what am I trying to say? What are we doing next? We're doing our lats next, sorry. Next thing we wanna check is our lat mobility. So obviously with handstands, that was one of the major things I said. How far over our head can we get our arms in order to achieve that straight line handstand? So first we wanna test how flexible your lats are. So to first start with this one, we're gonna have our back flat against the wall. Major thing here in order to get this drill proper is we wanna make sure that the small of our back isn't arched and our pelvis isn't tilted backwards. We wanna make sure everything is tucked under, similar to what we would do in a handstand. And this low back area is gonna stay glued to the wall, as well as our shoulders. I'm gonna put my hair down because we also want our head to stay flat as well. So from here, elbows are gonna go up in like a 90-degree, like a goal post, field post position happening. It's gonna go here, like you're like freeze against the wall. And then we're gonna basically push our arms upwards and trying to get them as close to our ears and straight as possible without our low back coming off. So if you start to get here and you start to lift and compensate, means you have very tight lats, and that's gonna be an area that we pay attention to. But if you have mobile and flexible lats, you'll be able to go up much, much higher. So I get to about here before it gets sticky, and then I can kind of like slowly force it to go fully all the way up. And that way, as you can tell, this is why I have like a relatively good handstand. I never like to say perfect because no one's perfect, but that's why I'm able to get my full extension through my wrist, my shoulder, and my hips and my feet all aligned in my handstand because I have flexible lats. So if you don't have flexible lats, these next 3 drills are gonna help you with that. We're gonna use our wall still. We're gonna start off with one that's just like an easy one. You can do this one with a wall, or you can do it just holding onto like a cable machine, or even like a squat rack, a door frame, whichever it may be. We're gonna start with our feet relatively far from the wall, so you can't reach the wall if you're to stick out your arms. You're gonna then touch the wall. We're gonna hinge our hips backwards, head will tuck in, and we're gonna basically push our armpit like as far down to the floor as possible without also pushing our stomach and our low back outwards as well. So as we're going through, we wanna keep a nice tight core, and just my shoulders will push, not my back. So if I'm here, you're gonna feel the stretch, but in order to actually get like a good stretch, we wanna lock in this lower area and only push through our shoulders this way. So you can do this one with 2 arms. You can also do this one with 1 arm, and that one can sometimes like help you because you can brace yourself with your free arm, and you can have like almost tactile feedback of like, am I loosening my core? Is everything tight? And then kind of help you keep the proper position. So pushing through the shoulder, pushing back with your hips, and at the same time, if you can see my shoulder, like I'm moving it out. So you wanna extend outwards and then push down. And that's gonna stretch out this part of our shoulder joint and our lats. Holding this one for warm up, 30 to 45 seconds. For a cool down, probably a minute. You don't really need to hold this one for a full 3 minutes. Second exercise, we're gonna still be using the wall, but we're gonna be going at it from a lateral perpendicular type vibe here. We're gonna basically be pushing ourselves into the wall. I like to bend this base leg because it allows me to push my weight into the wall better. The arm that we're stretching, or the lat that we're stretching, will go up overhead, and you're basically gonna try to get this part of your body like into the wall while still maintaining like a tight core. So again, we're not like full crescent here. We're just this part of our lat as we're stretching over. If you are someone with more flexible lats, you won't really feel this one as much. If you are tighter, you will. So this is definitely more of a beginner one versus an advanced one. In terms of an advanced stretch, we can then take it to the floor. It's gonna be a child's pose. So this one can be both beginner and advanced. If you're beginner, you're just gonna be flat on the floor, no arms elevated. Knees will be apart to make room for like your torso. We're gonna crawl out. Arms are basically gonna reach the end of your mat as much as possible, basically opening up that joint. And then we're just gonna stick our head through. This is gonna cause, again, that stretch feeling. If you want a more emphasized stretch, we can also crawl to either side. So if you want to stretch our right side, we would crawl to the left, opening that side up. If you want the left side, you would crawl to the right and opening that side up. The more you reach with this hand in particular, this one's kind of just here, the more you're gonna feel it. And you basically want to think of it as like a bow and arrow type position. So like bow and arrow, this arm is gonna be pulling and our body's gonna be pulling back, and that's gonna open this up and you're gonna feel a much bigger stretch. Now, even if you are in this position and you're like, I feel nothing, we can then advance this and pretend my arms were like up on a surface and we could go down. Same thing, left and right. And it'll just give yourself a little bit more of a deficit to work with and force it like more of like a downwards opening movement, which will make it more advanced for you if you're someone like me who's got a little bit more flexible lats and you don't really feel it too much on the ground. That is all 3 of the lat stretches. So now that we've done our mobility and flexibility warm up, another big key factor that we need to do for our handstands is warm up our core, or just become more aware of like our lower abdomen pelvic section, only because that tends to be where people kind of get lost when you're upside down. So fun fact, when you're upside down, whenever you think you're doing something, you're probably doing the exact opposite. So that's why handstands are so good, because it teaches us proprioception, just how our body moves in space, which is personally a reason why I like to work handstands. It just gives me more body awareness, whether it's in my bodybuilding or my like acrobatics. It just allows me to have better body control and understand how my body moves through space, whether I'm upright or upside down. So first drill we're gonna do is just kind of learn like how to move that area of our body. So we're gonna lay flat on our back. I like to do this one with my knees bent, but you can also do it with your knees not bent. But basically we're gonna start here. I want you guys to learn what it's like when I call it flare your chest in your handstand. So that's gonna be this position. A lot of people in their handstand, they love to sit in this position only because it's less work. It's a little bit less focus and you're not able to have a full straight line, but you can kind of hold it there, but it's not proper. So if you were here with your arms above your head, this is your chest flared, versus something that I would say to correct this would be don't flare your chest or tuck your hips, and that's gonna be this position. So as you can see, like I'm more neutral, my back is glued to the ground, which stays consistent with that whole lat mobility that we just talked about. My hands are overhead and my low back is staying flat. If you notice that when you flare your lats, your hands are able to stay here, but as soon as you bring that pelvis down and your arms start to move out, that can also be another key factor for you to realize that you need to work on that lat mobility. But you basically wanna go through this as like a warm up. to understand and feel how your pelvis moves when you're laying down, and that will give you a better understanding of how your pelvis moves when you're upside down as well. So I would go for here for about 8 to 10 reps for your warm up. And then I would move on to the next exercise, which is just gonna be a static hold and a glute bridge. I really like this one because it teaches us how to squeeze our bum and our core and like push our hips nice and flat. Another big key mistake that happens in our handstands is, say if I'm in a handstand like this, my hips will be like this in my handstand. So people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so straight, because they feel straight from their shoulder to their hip, but they don't really feel their feet, and then your hips are closed. So to fix that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bend those knees, go into a glute bridge, push our hips up, and I want you to feel what it's like when you're pushing and squeezing your bum and your hips are nice and flat. So versus relaxed position, flexed, squeezing, and flat, core stays nice and tight. We're not arching into like a low back position where you're creating an arch through your back. We're keeping everything neutral, but your hips are still flat, your bum is still squeezed. I would hold this for 3 rounds of 30 to 45 seconds. 1, because it's great conditioning for your glutes, but 2, it's also just great awareness of your body and holding tension while you're in a hold, because obviously a handstand, we're holding a position. So staying here, making sure that if your arms are overhead, you're able to maintain this position. You feel everything, because if you can feel it when you're flat, you're more likely to feel it when you're upside down. So those are my 2 pelvic awareness drills. The next drill that we're gonna go over in order to help strengthen your core is going to be a hollow body hold, which I'm sure you guys have all seen on my Instagram and my other tutorials, but we're gonna walk through that anyways. So legs would now be straight. You're gonna start with that pelvic awareness. We're gonna push our low back into the ground, nice and tight. Arms will go above head. You're gonna lift our shoulders and our head off the ground, and then we're gonna lift our legs and feet off the ground and hold this position. Now, if you shake like I'm shaking, it's completely normal. I know you feel really stupid when it happens, but it's completely normal. Holding this position, we wanna make sure that our legs stay nice and tight, because if you were to hold a hollow body hold and your legs are loose, you tend to arch through your low back. And it's also just like you look like you're not in a good position anyways. But you wanna make sure that you're nice and squeezed, because basically the tension that you hold in your body throughout all your drills will actually carry over into your handstand. If you practice sloppy, you're gonna perform sloppy. So we wanna make sure that all our drills that we execute have proper form, technique, tension through our body, so when we go upside down, the same thing applies. Now that we've fully warmed up for our handstands, including our wrists, our shoulders, our lats, our hamstrings, as well as our core, we can now go upside down. So for beginners, I'm gonna show you guys 2 different drills today, and then in a following episode, because it's gonna be a whole series for handstands, I'm gonna show you guys other progressions, but today is just gonna be using the very basics. So the first part of going upside down is getting comfortable with going upside down, because it can be very intimidating. So I like to use either a ledge or a box, a bench, whatever you might have at your gym, but if you're at home in a space kind of like the one I'm at, you can also use a chair and our friendly wall. We love a wall during handstand practice. Even as an advanced handstander, I still use the wall. So anyone who's like, oh, I'm too advanced, I don't need the wall. Wrong. You need the wall. It is your best friend through and through your entire handstand journey, okay? So first things first, for a beginner, the lower the surface, the more stability you have. This is gonna make you feel safer, because you can put your full pressure into something versus on the wall, it's pressing in. So those are the 2 differences between why you would use a ledge or a chair versus a wall. Starting with our hands, you wanna put them about shoulder width apart. In terms of pressure into our hands, most important thing, we wanna make sure it's into the top of our callus, into our lower fingers. Ignore my dry hands, they are so dry, oh my God. But anyways, the pressure is gonna be basically from the top of your hand all the way down. If your pressure is in the back of your hand, you're always gonna fall out of your handstand and you're gonna find it really hard to balance. So think of yourself as almost like a lion or a cat in the jungle with your feet or your paws in the dirt, and you basically want to be able to grab the dirt and pull it into your hand. That's a really good visual for me. If you're not someone who likes animals, you could also pretend you're grabbing a towel or a paper towel and pulling the towel in. But I personally like the animal one. So down here, weight is properly distributed. Our hands are shoulder distance apart. We're gonna pop our bum upwards. We're gonna look for the ledge. We're gonna look where we're gonna put our feet. Feet are gonna go up, and this is the very first position we're gonna go into. Is it a perfect handstand position? Absolutely not, but it's just getting yourself comfortable with being upside down and having weight, all your body weight, into your hands. Now for someone who's just beginning, a quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, come back down. As a beginner, you don't need to stay up there for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever it may be. Go up, feel comfortable, come back down. As you start to build your confidence, you can then stack it up even higher. So as you get more confident, we would go into that same starting position, looking where we're going, feet will go up, and instead of our bum being here, we're gonna lift it, extend the legs a little bit, and that cue of pushing through your shoulders, and we're trying to get our head through our hands, eyeballs looking at the ground, and overhead. As you can tell, when my bum starts to go over my shoulders, what are the key things that we're looking at? I'm looking at my arms actually pushing up, so that's that shoulder mobility, as well as my legs lengthen, that's the hamstring mobility. If you have either of those tight areas happening, you're gonna notice like this is where it's gonna get hard in your handstand, which is why it's so, so important to do these warm-up drills. I know they're boring, but they're very essential in terms of actual alignment and balance. So once you've graduated from here and you feel like you can hold that for a good like 10, 15 seconds, you feel comfortable and you're feeling like you're putting less weight into your feet and more weight into our hands, that's when we can graduate to the wall. 1 second, I need water. I'm like dying right now. Quick little sip. I sip on Transparent Labs Hydrate throughout my workouts because technically you could sip on like BCAAs or whichever, or EAAs. Personally, I just want more of an EAA, which is kind of like their hydration drink, because BCAAs are just like a whole like ploy of whatever. But I find these ones more beneficial. It keeps me hydrated. It allows me to have like better workouts and allows me to just like get through my entire workout, and then I substitute with water after I finish like an entire serving of this, and then I get through my workout. But anyways, that's my little like blurb of like how I drink water through my workout. But once you've finished this stuff over here, we're gonna go to the wall. This one is gonna seem scary when you get into it, mainly because it's like, I'll show you. You'll go down, and if you slip, it's like you fall a little bit. However, because we're nice and strong through our upper body, you'll just catch yourself. It's not that bad. And also, you can also do things without socks. I'm just a sock girly because honestly, I just can't do things in bare feet. It just freaks me out a little bit, so I'm a sock girly. Major thing being, we're gonna start, put your feet against the wall to start, because then you can put your hands here, and this is a great starting position for you to get up onto the wall comfortably. If you are too close and you don't have good hip mobility, you're gonna like struggle getting your legs up. So feet against the wall, crawl out almost to like tabletop position. Your dominant leg, I suggest, goes first, because that's gonna be the leg that's gonna push into the wall. You're gonna push your weight back into the wall, so lots of weight into this right foot. Then you're gonna lift your hips, use your core, walk the other leg up, and then the other leg. So that way they're together. If it's your first time on the wall, this position is great. Is it perfect? No, but it's a great starting point. And then to come down, you would step and come down. If you happen to slide, it's all good, but try to control your way down as much as possible, because it just prevents the potential of an injury, and it's a little bit more safe. Well, it's actually a lot more safe. Once you come down off the wall, and you've done this a couple times, again, feeling comfortable where you are upside down, we can then make this more advanced and actually get true tuck handstand. So starting in that same position, foot pressure into the wall, crawling up, we would then confidently bring our hands in, feet come up, our knees are bent at a 90 degree, my feet are together. I'm gonna push my weight up, I'm gonna clench the floor, my ears are between my arms and my eyes are looking down, my core is tight, and I'm holding a tuck handstand. So in terms of handstand progressions, this is the very first one that we're gonna achieve, then we're gonna step it down. If we can achieve a tuck handstand where it's 90 degree in our legs, from our hip to our shoulder to our hands is a straight line, you've now accomplished like level 1 of our handstand journey, and this is where this episode's gonna end. Because I want you guys to master this first and get comfortable with this before we move on to the next drills. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and if you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any questions at all, because I know I talked a ton, because I talk a lot and I talk fast, drop them below and I'll make sure to answer them.